Order up! Welcome to a brand new episode of the Order Up Podcast right here on wherever you may listen to your podcast. SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Play Music. I'm a little bit everywhere. Again, I'm Taryn Williams, and then on this episode of the Order Up Podcast, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite animes in recent years. We're going to be talking about Food Wars or Shokugeki, whichever one you prefer. And the reason why I want to talk about Food Wars is because it's different than most animes you may watch, because a lot of animes are action adventure with some story elements. There's some drama. There's sports anime, but this one's a lot different because this one's about cooking. And if you don't know me, I am a chef. I guess I'm still working on that title, but I'm a line cook currently at my job. I have a YouTube channel where I have two cooking shows, actually three cooking shows on my YouTube channel. So I do a lot of cooking, and so an anime that focuses on cooking is really different to me, and I was always curious about it. Excuse me. And I remember when I first saw Food Wars, I was like, okay, I watched the first episode, and I'm like, oh, okay, I might get into it. I waited maybe like 4 or 5 months. They're like, let me get back into Food Wars. Let me check it out. And then I think after episode 3, I was hooked. I was immediately hooked with just how they presented the story, how it's different than most animes. Because most animes, of course, you have a protagonist and an antagonist. Our protagonist is Somo Yukihira, who I think is like 15, I think, in the show. His dad owns a diner. He works in the diner with his dad, the Yukihira diner. They do kind of comfort food, very small, local. The locals love it. They love what they do. They're very warm and great service and things like that. And so this is kind of a brief synopsis of the story. So his dad is gonna travel, like he's gonna travel do some things. So he tells someone like, "Hey, there's a school in Japan. Here's go enroll in the school, and test yourself. Find your food. Find like who you are, make some friends, make some rivals, and find someone that will help you improve your cooking. Someone that you'll love." And he's like, okay, like, whatever. And so Shoma gets there, and I think it's Tetsuki. I think that's the name of the school. And it's very like, there's a lot of rich kids, a lot of kind of snobby kids, a lot of kind of, kind of upper class kids. And he's just a guy from a diner, and he gets talked about a lot. When people realize like he's not from a lineage and this and that, and he kind of deals with it. And he's like, whatever. And I like how the first 2 seasons of Food Wars, there really isn't an antagonist. It's really just the kids kind of battling it out, them, kind of challenging each other, getting better, proving their worth, going through all the school challenges and things like that. You don't get a proper antagonist until season 3. And I'm not going to spoil the series for you, because you should definitely go check it out if you're in the anime, if you're in the food. But one of the things I really appreciate about Food Wars, and something I really take notice is the amount of detail you have to research in order to do these episodes. It's not like, a fantasy RPG where you make, or a fantasy RPG, a fantasy anime where you can kind of make up the characters, the story, you kind of have this idea, you have like a storyboard that's created, and you just kind of go off of that. You have to do a ton of research to get to understand ingredients, understand seasoning, understand spices, understand different like proteins and how they work and how they interact, or how they react to being boiled rather than fried, or steamed rather than this. And like, you have to know a lot of food science in order to do this series. And they're actually on season 4 right now. I'm actually catching up. I'm almost through with season 3. I'm about like 70% of the way through season 3. And I'll be on season 4. They actually just started season 4 back in October 2019. And so it's just, you have to do so much research in order to make this anime work. And it works. And it works very well. Yeah, there's some very Japanese things. I remember I was telling one of my coworkers, and her boyfriend watched it. Like, it's very Japanese. I was like, yeah, there's some very Japanese things. Where like, when the food is so good, in their mind, their clothes like pop off. And, and it's very Japanese. It's very anime. But it's so good. And I watch the show, and I'm learning stuff every single episode. Just how things behave and how things work. And there's some things I'm like, oh yeah, I know why you're doing that, because I cook. Oh yeah, I get that. I understand that. So it's really cool. And it's just like this really different idea of how an anime works. Where you have your protagonist, you have kind of these kids that aren't really antagonists. Like, they try to make some of the students out to be antagonists, but they're not. They're just, they're just students. They're just kind of doing their own thing. or you don't know that they're being used by someone. Like, it's one guy, his ability is like he can watch you and he copies your mannerism. Like, he can cook what you do better than you, and he adds like his own little twist to it, so it's not the exact same recipe. It's really cool. He was one of the considered the bad guys, quote unquote, but he wasn't even bad because in a later episode, Shoma actually talked to him and they actually worked together for a group project that they have to do. It was really cool, and I really appreciate. Like, I just like that how they kind of kept swerving away. Oh, she's a bad person. Well, nah, she's not really a bad person. Oh, he's a bad person. Well, he's not really a bad person. One of the first people you meet in the series that's kind of like an antagonist for Soma is Erin, and she's the 10th seat in like the student council. I forget what it's called. Yeah, she's like the 10th chair, and she's really good. But her thing is she has what's called the golden tongue, and she can taste everything. Like, if you give her a dish, she knows like where the food came from. She knows the exact seasoning, the temperatures, how just how things were cooked, how things were like if they were steamed or fried or this or that. And if you have a secret ingredient, she picks up the secret ingredient. Like, she knows, she picks up all these things just from like one taste, and she's very good at it. But it was also kind of her own prison because she was always like chefs from across the country would come to her to taste their food, and she tastes their food and taste their food. And you learn a little bit later on, she's not really a bad person. She was just kind of trained up wrong by her dad. Her dad forced her to like anything that wasn't like fancy gourmet fine dining food was considered trash, and that's what she was raised on. And so that was kind of her idea. That's kind of what's their mindset. Like, oh, this isn't fine dining, this isn't quality ingredients, this is trash. And so that's why you think she's like, oh, she's she's egotistical, she's whatever, she's gonna be like the villain. But then you come to find out she's not really a villain. She was kind of held prisoner in kind of this concept. She had a bad ideology. That's basically what it was. And then Soma is the person who tries to kind of bring her out of that. But as the series goes on, you learn about that. I'm curious to see how season 4 rolls out. But yeah, I definitely just love all the different styles where you have a Shoma who reminds me, and I think one of the reasons I connect with Food Wars so much is that Shoma reminds me so much of myself. Just so much of, he's very raw and very kind of, he has talent, he's super talented, but he doesn't really have a focus. He doesn't have really a specialty. He just kind of does diner food and he just puts all his into that. He's very creative. If you look at me, I'm the same way. I don't have kind of my own style really. I can do a lot of things and I love a lot of different things, but I don't have like a specific genre or specialty in my cooking. I just kind of do what I want. And I also have this creative mindset of when I do stuff, I'm like, I'm always trying stuff and trying different ideas. And so I think I relate to Shoma very well, which I think is why I connect with the show a lot, just because of that connection between me and Shoma, and just kind of like, damn, like I'm the same way where I'm very raw in terms of my overall skill. My overall skill and things like that. But my creativity is something that I hold very dearly. And I think I kind of sort of call myself kind of like a graffiti chef, if you will, because how graffiti is very beautiful, but it's very abstract. You don't really know what you're seeing, or you don't really get it. You kind of see it. And I kind of view food kind of like graffiti, where I kind of do what I feel. And I just kind of put it all out there. It's kind of abstract. But sometimes that shit works, and that shit is a hit. And I usually have different ideas, different concepts, and that's kind of how I approach food. And I think that's kind of how Shoma approaches food, where some things are hits, but then he'll try stuff where if it's like his dorm mates, and it'll be a hot ass mess, and it's hilarious. So there's that. I like kind of how they bring all these different, and all the different students have their own little traits about them, where like even his dorm mates have their own specialties. Where one guy, he's good at curing meats. Megami, who's like one of his really close friends in the dorm, she's really good at, she came from like a fisher's port, so she's really good at fish and very comfort food and very things that make you feel really warm. That's kind of where she's good at. I can't think, I think her name is Riku. I think that's her name, but she's kind of the American adaptation. She's the American character in the show, quote unquote. She wears like an American flag bra or whatever, but she's really good. She's like the queen of meats, and her family owns like the best meat packing place in the States. So she gets high quality meats. You have, I can't think of his name. There's another guy who ends up winning a tournament. I forget his name. He's had silver hair, but he's like the curry specialist. Like, he's great at curry. Aaron's cousin, she's a gastronomy chef, so she's always doing science and all these little weird experiments and like science and freezers and cryo freezing and like blast freezing and using all the different gastronomy techniques in her cooking, and and that's what she's really good at. So all the different characters have their own little styles and their own little unique traits, and it's really cool. So you get kind of the traditional anime idea, but you just put it in food in a world of culinary. And it's really good. But definitely check out Food Wars if you're in the cooking, if you're in the anime, if you're like if you think you'd be interested in the cooking anime, definitely check out Food Wars. I definitely recommend it. It's on season 4 right now as I speak, as this podcast is going on. So definitely check out the first 3 seasons. Check out Food Wars. You can check it out on Crunchyroll or wherever you might get your anime. It's on Hulu. It's on Crunchyroll or wherever you get your anime. So yes, I'm gonna wrap up this episode up or a podcast. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. Of course, you can find the podcast. I always have it on YouTube channel. I always put it on SoundCloud, but I'm using the Anchor app as well. You can find it there. I think Anchor's putting it on Apple Podcasts, so you might be able to find it there too. It'll be up on Spotify. It's on Google Play Music. 5 out of my 7 episodes made it to Google Play. I'm not sure why they didn't do all 7, but whatever. But again, thank you for checking out this episode. Of course, follow me on all social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I just don't have a Snapchat, so don't look for me on Snapchat. Definitely check out the website. The podcast is also on the website, SlicingDicingGaming.com. You can find it over there as well. Definitely check out the YouTube channel, Slicing Dicing Gaming Entertainment. I'm always putting stuff up there. We're almost at 140 subscribers on the YouTube channel. Almost 8,000 views in total for the channel, which is crazy. It's been a blessing. It's been a lot of fun. I hope you guys are enjoying the podcast. Definitely let me know, like, if you have topics you might want me to talk about on the podcast. I can cover a little bit of everything. So just let me know, if it's food, video game related, if it's life related, if it's this whatever, let me know. Shoot me a text, or you can DM me, tweet me, you can text me. You have my number. I don't care. Facebook post, like, just let me know if there's anything you're interested in. If you like the podcast, definitely give this a like. Definitely share it. Definitely tell people. I'm trying to expand the brand. We're trying to do something different. We're trying to just put these two worlds together of food and gaming with some other nerd culture stuff. These are all things that I enjoy, and hopefully there's some people out there that enjoy the same things. So if you do, this podcast is for you. So I'm gonna wrap up this episode. Thank you again so much for following me, for supporting, and just for liking and sharing, and whatever you do to support. If you only listen to one of the episodes, that's great. I appreciate it. Thank you so much again from the bottom of my heart, and I will